So hello, good afternoon, everyone. So we're starting now the debate on Blue Education. And with us we have here today Stephanie Bordenave, a professor and researcher in Blue Biotechnology from the University of La Rochelle. It's the director of the Master of Applied Blue Biotechnology. We have Christophe Moquet, a PhD in marine biology. His focus is life on microalgae, and he's currently the director for Mares at University Côte d'Azur. And we have Tony Hammett. We don't have to do a presentation, but we all know you, previous director of Scripps Institute of Oceanography, with a huge background on the part of Blue Education. So this is what we will discuss today here. So I have prepared some questions for our panel. We all know that the blue economy is growing, the number of jobs in the blue economy will grow, and we need to educate people on this matters. So I would like to launch the question to all of you. What are the necessary adaptations that still need to happen in the education sector regarding the blue education? More or less, what are the gaps, and what are you doing right now to try to fill these gaps, more or less?
So I am the girl, I have to start. Okay. Thank you, guys. Hello, everyone. Well, to answer this difficult question, I would say that gaps should be identified, well identified. And for this, we need SMEs, and we need some advices from SMEs. And then we have to translate these gaps in course, like the master we are holding, Christophe and I. And we have also to recruit students to be in front of us, to listen to us, and to learn how to fill these gaps.
Yes, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you, Anna. Yes, we have to identify the gaps. I mean that I guess that the gaps also are changing with time. It's not the same than 15, 20 years ago. The master that we are running, in fact, aims at that. I've done a research-oriented master, and I was really happy about that. But we had no preparation on creating a startup or joining, in fact, startup or doing something else on research. And it's what we tried to do. That's why we ask for professionals having difficulties to hire students from marine programs, or also students who had difficulties to obtain a job, to ask them what were the skills we had to transfer them. And so thanks to that, we created courses, modules, to give them the things. But also, we have to be more connected with the professionals. That's why we're here. In fact, Blue Education is a small part in my Blue City, because only a few of our programs are connecting to the professionals, and I think we have to remain open to the professionals and not to specialize from here, but I think that we will share this with Tony.
Okay, well, I think my panelists here are at the front line delivering new master's degrees, and so they're already filling the gaps. But I think looking back, starting in 2002, when I launched my first new degree, there are some things that are almost too trivial to say, but they're still true. So the students say, first of all, there's innovation most easily comes in master's degrees. I think what we've learned is that we should keep the undergraduate degree quite straight-laced, quite conservative, very rigorous, and we should be expansive in the master's degrees. Maybe my colleagues can say more about that. And in that master's degree, there's some things that always seem to pop up. We always need more mathematics. That was the old phrase in 2002, and we started a quantitative marine science degree jointly with CSIRO and the University of Tasmania in Hobart, and it was all the cliche that our students didn't have enough mathematics. I mean, many of us corrected that over the decades, but now there's a huge need for big data understanding, whether we're looking at genetic information or satellite data collected on chlorophyll production in the ocean, or where to site algae ponds or whatever. I mean, equipping our students with the ability to handle gigantic data sets is a sort of a non-traditional skill that I think maybe we're a little bit behind. And the other thing, of course, is we want some kind of practical experience at the end of the degree, and my fellow panelists have gone to a lot of trouble to arrange that. But every time we add more companies, it doesn't necessarily have to be a company, it might be an NGO or some other practical experience where the student actually goes out and represents themselves to a different community, even a local government community or a provincial government. That always works well. So I think they're the sort of common things we've learned.
Okay, thank you. So as I understood, you're trying to create a more systemic approach, so not only fundamental science, which is absolutely necessary, but also more applied science and a contact with the entrepreneurship. So you think this is the ingredients or the mix that can really make a change in the blue education sector and further on blue jobs in the economy?
Yeah, maybe mix is a good word to let students know that they need fundamental science and also practical approaches to answer all the questions given by labs, research center or SMEs. So mix, I think, yeah, it's a good word. Mix of everything.
Yeah, the idea is not only to propose students to go in entrepreneurship, but it's still to open them to research. Some of them will go to research. In fact, a lot of students, when they start a master's, they want to join research, but sometimes they change their mind. Sometimes they cannot join research for other reasons, and if they're not prepared to something else, they're lost. That's why we not only propose, but all of our students, they have to speak about science in research, but also law, about intellectual property, about entrepreneurship, and these kind of things. So, and after this, they have to specialize themselves anyway. But it can be in second year and through professional practice and others.
So they actually have the opportunity to try different skills at different areas.
Because before they start, they don't know what is blue economy. Obviously, there are no students still here, so we are still speaking between each other. So we have to give the opportunity for students to discover what is blue economy, and oceanography is not just playing with dolphins and having a look to the algae.
Yes, so you have a part of research, you have a part of conservation, and also the part of entrepreneurship, so they can experience everything and then choose the right path or a mixed path if they try.
Yeah, and I'm sorry. They also have to think that they're not really going to do only one thing during their life. Maybe they're going to start with research and then find something interesting and then turn to entrepreneurship, and then, okay, the SME will go down, so they will come back to maybe teaching and then oceanography, and so they have to be ready to change their mind.
And also not only for the students, but for the research itself. In discussing with PI in labs, say that their job as a PI is also to manage a budget, to manage teams, and it's important also to extract intellectual property from their work. So it can be good also for research itself, in fact, to open education to something else than research only.
And now a more difficult question maybe for Tony. The difficulty of connecting all these actors, because it's not easy, connecting research, connecting companies, connecting everyone. How do we do this connection between all the actors that is really needed? What is the ingredients to do this?
Well, it truly is a struggle in a master's degree to get all the skills. I mean, you have to have a sound scientific basis, and yet we all need to teach some kind of economics. We found that the more governance we teach, our students are happier, the employers are happier. So, you know, the regulatory framework, in developing countries, that's always quite severe. Here in Europe, it's quite tough. If you're going to start a new algae company, there's a lot of regulation. So we have to include those general principles. But as my fellow panelists said, you know, the blue economy is really about people. And you know, the only thing a scientist learns about that is science is easy, people are difficult. And so along the way of these master's degrees, somehow we have to directly or indirectly get across these people skills. I mean, everything from how to give a pitch on your idea, or how to explain to a government regulator why it is you should be allowed to grow a new species of algae in Europe when it's not on the list. It's all those kind of soft things that enable people who want to be entrepreneurs to go out there and do it. I mean, to mention someone that I once met, you don't want to be Elon Musk when you go out to talk to the government. You want to have a bit more skill than that.
Okay, thank you. So as you've been developing these projects for the masters on the Blue Biotechnology, Blue Education, what are your results so far? What is your feedback on the programs so far? I'm curious about it, but the audience is also.
Well, in fact, we opened this new program this year, 2018. And it's 2 years we were working on it, in fact, to search for professionals. We were here already, here in Rimouski last year, to search for professionals. And so, yes, we wanted to create some connections, non-conventional connections with the professionals to make them involved, so for them to see their interest in that. We call this immersion project. If you're interested by being a partner, you can come. We have a booth here at My Blue Education. But it was long, in fact, yes, to find partners, maybe a project for 5 years, not just to propose them internships, because professionals, they have other things to do than just to deal with a student for 4 months and it's over after. So it was what was really long, but fruitful, because so we have 26 students in this first year, 12 we call resident students, so they are staying 2 years. So they are with the professionals and locally currently, from international next year. And we have 14 other students because we're part of international programs of exchange students that we are called IMBRC. It's a European program.
So we started Applied Blue Biotechnology Master last year with 5 students. They all found a job right now all over the world, from Madagascar to Guyana and to Scotland, from Scotland to Portugal. So they are all in place, or they are making some thesis, or they are working. And today, this year we started with 8 students, and I was maybe lucky because I had the catalyzer. The master was catalyzed by EU. It's part of a blue career project. So thanks to EU, we had some fun to create this master, and now we are trying to form students and to let them embrace the blue career. So it's a quite nice experience now.
Okay, and Tony really bring out a very important part, that is the skills that they gain with this, the soft skills, the hard skills. So what are the main skills that these programs are really giving to students? I would like to have your all opinion.
I'll try to answer that. Just a footnote to Christophe's program, because he's so shy. My understanding is he has 5 students from France and the rest are from the rest of the world. Yeah. And 100% of the course is taught in English, which I think is quite bold in Côte d'Azur. I mean, both of us are lucky we can attract students to the beach as well as the content of the course. Look, one of the things I've observed is that in these master's courses, the students develop a great camaraderie. And actually, they probably teach each other more than we teach them. And these students are usually socially motivated. I mean, they're coming to learn the skills to change the world, or at least change the government. Put a price on CO2, and they come from a wonderful diversity of background. In our last master's class in marine bioconservation, there was a medical doctor and a lawyer and a failed novelist. I'm not sure I should use that word. Potential novelist. I mean, these are people who are not your traditional students, but they're somehow attracted to the blue economy, or they understand that the sustainability of the planet is somehow going to be connected with our sustainable use of our resources, including the ocean. And so these groups of students, I think, stay together over time. So they form their own social networks. Obviously, the lawyers are, you know, we teach a little bit of law in the master's courses, but it can't possibly be enough. But if you've been a lawyer, even in another branch of the law, you know, you can be a resource for the other students. And the same with the diversity of backgrounds of other people. So I think this community that seems to spring up, I mean, you're in the middle of starting this, but I think that's probably the most exciting thing about these courses. And it's you know, you can't possibly teach the diversity of skills, but somehow these cohorts of interesting people teach themselves.
Well, about main things, maybe I'm very proud to attract students from the world a little bit far from blue biotechnology. I have an example in mind that we attracted the students from shrimp aquaculture, and he entered in the master just to discover another world, and came back to the world of shrimp aquaculture, but with other ideas, and he developed now a new way to grow shrimp, thanks to the skills we gave him. So to attract students from other part of the blue economy is, I think, a really good thing.
Yeah, totally agree with both of you. In fact, that thank you for the footnote, by the way. And we design projects with the professionals, and that's why we wanted also to have not only science students, but also students coming from other backgrounds. So we have students, they are 25, something like this, coming from bachelor or licence, and others in their 30s and the 40s. Some of them have done some entrepreneurship ventures during 10 years. We have students from business backgrounds, communication, engineer. And so we are trying to create projects so to mix, to combine the different skills. And you're right, in fact, sometimes they have better answers than the teacher. Because if the question is about nuclear waste, the guy in engineering on nuclear waste is better than me to answer the question. So that's the key, I think, yes. And it's so nice to see them interacting.
Yeah, we are making a community, finally, in these courses.
So you're taking education to another level, which is creating education in a complete and systemic ecosystem, basically. So they can extract more also from themselves, not only from the teacher that they're learning from. So, and this shows also the transversability that exists among all careers that can be applied in the blue. So you're talking about laws of the sea, you're talking about biotechnology, medicine, biomedicine, biotechnology. So you can apply blue in almost any career, yeah, and bring it to that kind of program, right?
Yeah, and another word which is maybe interesting is mobility. They should be able to come from from green chemistry or from entrepreneurship, and then enter in the blue career project, and then embrace this career, learning new tool, and then sharing these tools with others. So yeah, mobility, thematic mobility, geographical mobility, and maybe career mobility, it's important also.
Yeah, emphasizing the geographic mobility too is that it's important we do not stay only in developed countries, but when we meet with emerging and developing countries, they have sometimes answers already really adapted to their needs, in fact, and we have to learn a lot from the developing countries, the small island developing states, and the least developed countries having shorelines. So our students, they have to be ready also to move there. Yeah, to exchange with the people there.
So you're trying also to promote that kind of mobility among your students, and how is that working? Do you think it's easier to promote this kind of mobility? Are they ready? Are they? What is the feedback on that?
Well, somehow we're selecting students on the idea that they want to move abroad. So. Maybe it's biased, but yes, they're really happy to go abroad. We help them also financially, so I think they're happy.
Yeah, they are happy to travel, but maybe they are less happy to change their mind and to change their career project, maybe from aquaculture to extraction of molecules, or from chemistry to aquaculture. So we have to say them, communicate with all the students and all the people interested that it's possible, and it's really rich as experience to share and to go further their first idea.
And it's also interesting because we have some researchers here in Blue City, and the goal is not to forget their background with this kind of masters. It's kind of a complementary tool, right?
Yeah, you cannot forget your background because you need this scientific background, but you have to adapt it maybe to other questions, other thematics, other project, and be ready to move.
Okay, so difficult question, Tony, now. Are there enough jobs in the blue economy right now, or what do you predict for the future in this area of blue jobs?
I think the short answer is no. But if we make these courses correctly, then I think the kind of student we're graduating is flexible enough to prevail. So we could have many hour discussion on all the mistakes that we made in these courses, but the biggest one was to be too specialized. So at the height of the algae biofuel industry, we had 5 companies within 5 kilometers of our institution. They were all asking us for graduates who could contribute to the algae biofuel industry. And we made a far too specialized course. And of course the biofuel industry crashed, although I'm sure it'll come back. I don't know if it's 10 years or 20 years. So exactly 0 of those students were employed in the algae biofuel business. But they were all had great skills. They had analytical chemistry skills. They knew about growing bioorganisms. They'd understood biosecurity, and they'd have different experiences. Some of them went into government in the federal level or the state level. But I think our mistake was being too particular. It's trying to create people with these inquisitive people skills and enough curiosity about the law and governance and other things. I think we probably left out too much on entrepreneurship, and if I could just draw your attention to the course at the Copenhagen Business School. I'm not a paid representative, but they've got a very heavy component of entrepreneurship. And among all these master's degrees that I try to learn about, that's one that attracts me because they've thought about something that I think we missed out on. So, those students who go into starting their own companies, I don't think we'd prepared them enough about the experience they were about to go through in, interviewing potential investors and going to pitches and so on. So I think those are the 2 things. Ultimately, all the graduates from our programs are either professional surfers or they're gainfully employed in some kind of science or engineering business.
I don't know if you were talking about you already have the 5 students that got a job, and
the entrepreneurship is an important tool. We also offer in the La Rochelle University, but I'm sure in other universities in France, to the best of my knowledge, that we are offering also courses of entrepreneurship, intellectual property, and all maybe the skill needed to prepare the student to enter in an enterprise and to create its enterprise. But it's not a need. They should be aware of that. They can do that, but it's not it's not a crucial need. They should understand that it's important, and if they want to cross this, to fill this gap, they can come back to the university or to other structure to find interesting people to help them to create their enterprise.
Yeah. To connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, when we created the program, as I told you, we asked the professionals, and it was one of the first needs they asked us to develop entrepreneurship. And so University Côte d'Azur is in fact the result of, it's a kind of cluster between the previous University of Nice, historical university in science, and other private partners, including Schema Business School. So in fact, our courses are in fact the result of a combination between a university and a business school. Yeah.
Okay, interesting. Also on the part of the mobility, just to also to finish a bit, on the part of the mobility, which I think is very important, what about the uniformization of the recognition of these masters that they are acquiring? Because a master that is certified in a certain country might not be in another country. Are you touching a bit on this, or what is is it easier to be recognized everywhere outside Europe, for example? How is this a problem, a barrier for the students, or no?
Well, I don't think that in Europe it's a problem because we are talking about credits. So, okay, I think that if you have maybe a master or a degree from Spain, it could be adapted from this degree to enter in a degree in France. It could be possible. What is maybe different is across the Atlantic. In US and in Canada, it's a little bit different, but with motivated students, you can obtain, I think, a lot of things. So motivation and good marks are important.
Yeah, I don't think it's a problem. Yes. Once again, if we construct the courses so that they are international, we speak in English, of course, and so we adapt also because if we are only giving grades out of 20 or out of 30, I know we have to adapt to give A, B, C, D, and things. But no, I don't.
So
think
it's not a barrier of.
No, I don't think so.
Okay, so Tony, yeah.
Oh, just quickly, I mean, we've had some resistance, and the antidote we've found is this final project or capstone project. So potential employers that are a bit skeptical about, what's a master's degree in this area. Most of the students, I think all of the students, have done some kind of final project or report. Sometimes in the lab, sometimes a literature study. But if it's a 2-year program, maybe they've spent the last 3 months intensively doing this. If it's a 1-year program, they've spent the following summer on this capstone project. I mean, that really opens the eyes of the potential employers, and then it's sort of word of mouth from the previous class. And we're quite a few years in now, so it's I think we're over that problem. But I think it was a real issue at the beginning.
Yeah, so to mitigate that is a good way of doing it. And for last, we have young generations here at My Blue City also. What is the advice for the, let's call it, blue generation now that it's growing now?
Get ready. Get ready. Don't hesitate to embrace this career and come and join universities, schools, what you want, but learn and apply this knowledge to your project and your life.
Well, I don't know who I am to give an advice to the blue generation, so I give the microphone to Tony.
Well, I always said at Scripps, you should surf at 7 a.m. and get to work at 8 a.m. That's my advice.
To be really happy, so that's your advice. Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, you want to?
No, I share it.
And you do it? You go surfing?
No, but I'm agree with Tony.
Okay, thank you very much for all the panelists and for your answers and collaborations. And thank you for your attention. Thank you.